monosaccharide sugar. You're sweeter than a woman's.
Without further ado, let me introduce Ron Shortridge.
Well, thank you. I'm very blessed to be able to visit with you today about the Gift of Life program. It's especially important to me because I'm a recipient of an organ donation. In December of 2013, I was diagnosed with a very rare genetic disease that was wasting away my liver. And the prognosis for something like that is not very good. So I applied for the Gift of Life program. I did receive a liver transplant in March of 2014, and since then I've been through a process of recovery, and now I'm getting back into the business consulting. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you is just how important it is. Currently, there's two pieces of paper that are being passed around to you. The first one is a donor application card that you can fill out, because there's a Kansas registry that you can belong to. Most people think that if they sign the back of their driver's license, that's what indicates that you can be a donor. But what happens if your driver's license isn't available for some reasons? So what the Gift of Life program recommends is that you sign not only your driver's license, but you also fill it in this registration form. In addition, we recommend that you visit with your families, because that's one of the toughest things that a family can go through. Every day I pray for the family that had to go through the tragedy of losing someone that they loved, so that they could make a organ donation for me. But I am thankful and hopeful that they might know that their tragedy does bring some good things. And that good thing is in the form of at least 8 lives were saved, and at least another 15 lives were substantially improved. Some of the statistics that I like to share, because it brings it home, is if you look at just in Kansas right now, there's 115,000 people right now, in the United States, there's 115,000 people right now that are on the waiting list for an organ transplant. Right now, 3,000 of those people are in Kansas and Missouri. 120 people are added to that list every day. And right now, 15 people lose their life every day because there's just not enough organs to go around. One of the jobs that I have in volunteering for the Gift of Life program is I share with people, let's dispel some of the myths about it. One of the myths that people are very reluctant is that their bodies will not be treated with honor and respect. And that's one of the things that I found out is so important to the Gift of Life program, is that everybody be treated with honor and respect. Not only their families, as well as the donors. A lot of folks ask, well, I'm in Garden City, that's too far away from a transplant center. I can't do anything. That's also not true. We have a transplant center in Denver, we have one in Kansas City, and the Gift of Life program has folks that are on full-time staff that will help counsel families. I've talked to the hospitals in all the area, and they all say that they're open to whatever the family wishes. But the Gift of Life program will fly people out to counsel with the family, and then if they do ultimately decide to make an organ donation, they will fly the doctors out, and this is all at the expense of the Gift of Life program. There's no expense to the family, because that's one of the myths that's out there quite a bit is, well, my goodness, I can't afford that. Well, none of the expense for any of the services are charged to the family that's going through such a terrible trauma. Most organ donations are from a deceased person, There are live donors that can happen. The trouble with live donors is the ones that they've got a really good handle on are kidneys. All the other organs, like a liver, they're just not very doggone good at it right now. And there's too much risk to the person who's making a donation. So that's why it usually happens when they're deceased. One of the myths that's out there is, well, I'm too old. I'm 50 years old or 60 years old. I've wore out my organs. That's not true. The Gift of Life program would love to have anybody who has a generous heart up to the time that they're 85 years old. You've received some of these papers, but the person who was passing it around is my wife, Mary. I have to share that she's my angel, because she's the one who kept me strong through the process. And I also have to say that our faith in God is what really helped us go through the process. And I'm so pleased now that I can share it with other folks. One of the things that is oftentimes a myth that I hear from folks is, well, gosh darn it, it's such a strong part of the grieving process to have an open casket funeral, and I don't want to take that away from my family. And the Gift of Life program assures you and assures your family that that is not true, that your body will be treated with so much respect and care that that's not a problem in any way, shape, or form. Some of the things that folks have also said is, well, you can't get there fast enough if I'm in such a distance. The Gift of Life program has aircraft on standby 24/7 that they can go anywhere in the United States that they need to. But to make that better, the United States is divided into 8 different regions. And those 8 regions are where an organ donation goes first. So if somebody in Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Colorado, that's our region. If somebody in that region needs an organ first, a donor from that region is the first to allow that. Once again, I encourage you to consider to go through the donor process, and I'd like to open it up for a few questions if I could.
Yep.
Corneas?
Yes, corneas are a wonderful transplant. In that case, oftentimes it's not a life-saving donation, but it is a life-transforming donation, and so that's how we think of it in the Gift of Life program, is whether it's life-transforming or life-saving. And life-transforming can be just as important. Yes?
How much do you learn about the person who donated to you?
Okay, good question is, how much do you learn about the person that has donated to you? The answer is, it just depends. What the program is set up is that the donor's family does not know who receives that organ. They can ask if they would like to find out, and then the one who receives it has the opportunity to approve of that process. In my case, my wife and I, we both wrote to the donor's family and told them how much we appreciated their gift and our sincere hope that they can get some small amount of comfort from the fact that a life continued. But at the same time, they don't know us specifically. When I wrote that letter, it goes into the transplant coordinator's office and is then distributed to that family. If I wanted to, on the other side, if I wanted to know the family, I could make an application to know the family. And where I'm at on that, personally, is I just want to respect that family's privacy. And whatever grieving process they're going through, I want to let them grieve in whatever they want. So if they decide they would like to get to know us, I'm sure happy to do that. Probably the most important thing I've ever done, though, is a couple of months ago I went to a conference, and at that conference I was able to meet another family who had made a gift of their loved ones' organs, and I was able to thank them. My wife was able to thank them, and I want to just thank you guys for considering signing up.
I have two questions, Ron.
Yes.
The first one, I think I missed it. You mentioned that it wasn't enough to just put on our driver's license that we're organ donors.
It is technically enough to put it on your driver's license. We ask you to go one step further and sign the piece of paper that we passed around, because what that does is that's in a national database that's kept for all those that have agreed to it. And what happens is, in the case of if you've lost your driver's license or it's not available in the event of an accident, the Gift of Life program can go into that database and find out what your wishes are. And it also affirms for your family what your wishes are.
And the last question, I think it should be the last question because we're about to start on the next speakers. Do you know what test they actually check for? I know that if we have some bodies, do they check for HIV? They check for any disorders that they might have?
Yes. They have to make a very, very rigorous inspection of all the illnesses that may affect somebody who might receive that organ, and they are pretty doggone picky. In some cases, if there's a minor problem, they'll just inform the recipient of that transplant of the problem, and then they have a choice.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Brenda, if you want to turn them into me, I'm happy to file them anytime anybody wants to do that.
So we ran out of buttons or pins, Nerd Talk pins.
I have a pin.
Oh, no, hold on. I have something else for them.
Oh, okay.
I have a little surprise. Since we're talking about Star Wars today,
Hey.
I created my own ones.
Hey.
You are also presented with a certificate. And another organizer is going to sign it. But thank you
Okay.
so much, Ron.
Thank you.